Hey fam, just wanted to pop on here right quick and share a quick testimony. Um, I've been feeling pressed to share this testimony. You know, the Bible says we overcome by the blood of the Lamb and the word of our testimony, and I think it's important that when we have a move of God in our life, that it is something to share with others, to encourage them, and to remind ourselves. Sometimes we have to testify to ourselves about what God has already done and what He is doing and what He is going to do. And I just really felt unction to share this testimony. And I guess the moral of the story is it doesn't matter how dark or deep or empty you feel like the place you're in is, God can meet you right where you are. And we don't have to worry about, am I mature enough to hear Him? Am I mature enough to seek Him and get? You don't have to worry about none of that. He's your creator, and He knows exactly how to reach you. He knows exactly how to make a point to you. So the faith isn't in our ability to hear Him or decipher. It's in His ability to reach us and speak to us in our point of need. And about 25 years ago, I woke up on a regular Tuesday morning, and I woke up vexed in my spirit in a way I had never ever been vexed before. And it was a disturbing kind of an experience. And that morning I just immediately began to do an inventory. What's wrong? Did I have any issue with anybody? Was there any financial problems? What was going on? And there was nothing. No problems, no issues, no nothing. And I kept going on and on in my brain. And after a while I figured, okay, Lord, what is it? So I got up, got my oldest daughter off to school, and had a 10 o'clock appointment I had to get to out in Rockdale County. So again, I'm just spending that whole time just almost wringing my hands. What is it, Lord? What is it? What's going on? And about maybe 3/4 of the way to that doctor's appointment, I heard very clearly there's something wrong with the baby. And I know we spend a lot of time wanting to hear God and wanting to get a word from God, but at that moment I did not want that word, and I did not want to hear that from God. And so anybody who's ever had a baby knows that you don't want to hear stuff like that ever. And so when He said that to me, I remember like a bolt of lightning just shot down through me of anxiety and fear. And there was nothing I could do except just finish the rest of the ride to the doctor's appointment. When we got there, the tech, he started putting the gel on my stomach, and I'm sitting here looking at these clouds and rainbows above my head, and I'm like, Lord, please let me have misheard you. Please don't let what you said be legit. Please, I'm hoping I misheard you. I'm hoping I didn't even hear you. And I get there, and I'm laying on the bed, and I got this nervousness, and then all of a sudden I notice him get quiet as he's running the wand over my stomach. And he gets quiet, and then he leans in, and then he does his chin like this, and I'm like, because I already know, I heard loud and clear. And so I leaned over and I said, what is it? And he said, well, the doctors will come in and speak to you. So he gets to clicking. And I'm just like, enough with the clicking. So he gets up and he goes out of the room, and the doctor comes back in. And I'm looking at him, and he goes, well, your child has a cleft. And I'm like, okay, what is that? What's a cleft? And so he said, well, let me show you. And so he turns the monitor around to face me while I'm laying there on the bed. And yeah, all you could see was this little 4-month-old baby's face, clear as day in the screen. And there was just 2 eyes and a big black hole. Just 2 eyes and a big black hole. There was no recognizable nose, no recognizable mouth. And at 4 months, this hole took up most of her face. And I just froze. And it wasn't too much he could say after that. And then he, quickly left out of the room. And I'm just sitting there letting it sink in, letting it soak in, trying to process what I just saw. And I got up and got dressed, and we started out of the doctor's office, and he came out of another room in front of us, and he turned and saw us, and he said, "Oh, if you want to terminate, just let us know by Monday. We're still within the window. Okay, have a good day." And in that instant, this fire, this mama bear fire just raged in me because of the way he said what he said about my unborn child. And I went into mother bear mode. And I was livid. And I said, if she has two heads, she's coming. Because that was never even an option. And so we get out to the car, and I'm just trying to come down off of that and get to the house. And I just go into my room and lay across the bed and commence to weeping. And I mean weeping, like weeping from the bottom of your soul, wherever that is. And all these things go through your mind. Did I stand too close to the microwave? Did I spray too much Lysol? Did I breathe in too much exhaust from the truck in front of me? Did I take some medicine or whatever? You just always thinking, what did I do? What did I do? And so I was just sitting there, and there were no prayers I could pray. There were no scriptures coming to mind. The only thing I could do was weep. And I wept and wept and wept and wept until I wept myself to sleep. And a short time later, I was awakened by the sound of what I can only describe as like 100 firecrackers being lit and going off at the same time. It was like, pow. And it almost sounded like a gunshot, but it was like right near me. And I jumped up out of my bed, and in that same instance, God showed me a HD image of my unborn child's face post-op, meaning after birth, after I found the doctor, after surgery. He showed me that. And in that instance, which was so fascinating to me whenever I think about it, is I had time to examine her face. And I was able to see her fat cheeks. I was able to see her skin complexion. I was able to see her hair and what kind of hair she was going to have, and what kind of little slanted eyes she was going to have. I was able to see all of that. And on top of that, I saw a tiny moon-shaped scar from her nose to the top of her lip. And I fully saw what I saw. And I remember saying, God, did you just show me my baby? Did you just show me my baby? Was that my baby? And I remember just sitting there literally in utter belief, because God, the omnipresent, omniscient, omnipotent God pierced time for me. And when I stop and think about it, he went into my future through my own perspective, took an HD picture of my daughter, brought it back to my past, which was my present, burned it into my mind, because I was crying out to him. He heard me on that day, not 2 weeks later, not a month later, not the next day. He heard my cry at that moment. And I can only say that the sound I heard had to have been the sound of time being inserted into. I can't even describe it, but he came through, because God is outside of time. He can see yesterday, today, and tomorrow all in the same glance. But he took something from the future and gave it to me. And I was just sitting there, just bewildered. Sorry about that, y'all. It was a little too much noise. But anyway, like I was saying, I'm sitting there in the bed and I'm just in like a state of shock because I'm still tripping because I'm like, did that really happen? You know, and so he said, as I was with you in Tulsa, so shall I be with you through this. And a little backstory on Tulsa. I was in school out in Tulsa, Oklahoma at Oral Roberts University. And my husband at the time was ill. And he caught some pandemic that was going around the country at that time. And it moved really fast. And in like a few days, he was just literally like incapacitated, just out of it. And so we ended up going to the ER, and they ended up keeping him, put him in ICU, and started all these tests and all of these blood draws and all this kind of stuff. And then they put us in a room, and then they came in and they were like, okay, so you have this, whatever this is that was going around the country. And basically that meant that at that point he had 1/4 lung capacity. So he would gasp for air, just gasping. Instead of taking a deep breath, he could only gasp. And so that meant his right lung was filled and his left lung was half filled. So he was literally breathing on 1/4 lung capacity. Not only that, they did a scan and his heart was encased in the pericardium, and the pericardium was full of blood, not blood but fluid. And so his heart was inside this thing trying to pump with all this fluid on it. So his heart was not working right and his lungs were. Basically he was drowning. So when we got there, they started beating on him with a drum to try to get the mucus up so he could spit it out, but it was not working in any kind of realistic time frame. And so, you know, when you're in that situation and you're just sitting there, because there's literally nothing you can do. It was the loneliest, darkest, scariest experience I had had up until that point in my life. And so I'm sitting here trying to keep my composure and keep him encouraged because he's scared. And so we both scared, but we still praying, you know. And when it would get way too much for me to handle, I would excuse myself, go out into the hallway, and then I would call my oldest daughter's godfather, who was his best friend, and I was like, you got to talk to me. You got to talk to me. And he would minister to me, and then he would pray with me, and then he would encourage me, and I would clean myself up and then go back in for a whole nother round. And so as we got in there and things started looking bad, you know, I tried to keep the spirits up and went home, this was around Christmas, I went home, got lights, and had lights all in the room and stuff, and I'm sitting there just like, God, what is going on? You know, we're here, we're in school, we're trying to do this, you know, do this thing for you, you know, this is why we're here. And I'm just like at a loss for words. And so then one day we hear like a knock on the door, and I'm like, come in. And unbeknownst to us, the hospital basically was like, you know, figuring he was not going to be here any too much longer. So they started making phone calls, and they called to the school and I guess let them know that we were there. So when I say come in walks Richard Roberts, who's the son of Oral Roberts, the founder of Oral Roberts University. And he comes in and he was like, hi, how are you? And I'm like, hi, how are you? And he was like, where is it? I said, I'm it. He said, okay. And he spoke to Patrick for a little bit, and then he said, let's pray. And so we began to pray. We held hands and we began to pray. And I don't know about you, but the book I read says when two or more are gathered, he is there also. So we had at least three. So I knew we was doing good at that point. And I kid you not, we prayed. He left. And within the week, the mucus just started coming up. The fluid around his heart just started going down within that same week. And I think by the end of that week, we were leaving the hospital for a couple of more days. We were leaving the hospital. So that's why I said, when he said, as I was with you in Tulsa, so shall I be with you through this, I knew I was going to be all right. Because there was no way I would have made it through that if God hadn't been there. Honey, he will send somebody to do what needs to be done. So that lesson for me was depend on, lean on me. I got you. I got you. And so here I am now, having seen an image of my unborn child, having the memory of a blessing from years ago where I almost lost my spouse. And he's converging those two experiences, and he's telling me, I got you. I mean, how better to tell this person you got them is it to go into the future and basically let them see what the end's gonna be. I mean, come on. It don't get no better than that. And so once he said that, I said, well, Lord, her name is Grace, because you have given me unmerited favor in this situation. I can't even explain to nobody what just happened here. I said, but her name will be Grace. And I don't know what, he also showed me a $250,000 number. It wasn't even a dollar. It's $250,000. And I don't know what that meant. If it's $250,000, hey, but I'm still asking God to reveal to me what that meant. So anyway, he shows me her face, and then I began to get up out of the bed. And I had no feelings of fear, no anxiety, no nothing. I was completely rejuvenated. And I got up out the bed, went in there into the computer room and got on the computer and started educating myself on this condition. See, because what I later found out was most people don't even find out their child has a cleft until the delivery room. So everybody's traumatized. God gave me 5 months of preparation. 5 months. I got educated. I found out where the foundations were. I found out who the doctors were in the city. I found out all about this cleft, what type of cleft it could be, varying degrees, da-da-da-da. I was educated. I was ready because my intention was to meet my child with a smile on my face and nothing else. And love and joy for her getting here. And that was my goal, and that was my intention. So I thank God for those 5 months of preparation. And then I was like, Lord, I don't trust no doctors who don't like dealing with people that don't look like them. I said, so I need you to help me find a doctor. And all he said was, you'll know him when you see him. And so I started making a list of doctors. And then I said, okay, well, let's try this guy, Joseph Williams. He's just got here. He just took over craniofacial over at Children's Healthcare. So I made an appointment. And we went and saw him. And I kid y'all not, when he walked in the room, he was a little taller than me. And he was a very meek, very mild, very soft-spoken, very unassuming man of Asian descent. And he walked in, and he introduced himself, and he reached down and shook my hand. And when he shook my hand, the genuineness, the concern, the commitment, everything, I just got all of it. It just flooded. And I was like, that's him. I just said, we don't have to look anymore. That's him. And so I met the doctor. My heart was completely in agreement with this doctor. I knew he was the doctor. And so 5 months later, Grace comes, and we do our first series of surgeries. And I'm sitting on my bed one day, and because she had this condition, she was not able to lay down. She had always had to sleep sitting up, period. There was no laying her on her side, none of that. Because of her condition, if any drainage came down, it would go straight into her throat and choke her. So I had to sleep so light, because any stir, I had to be able to get up and catch her and help her expel. And so one day I had her in the bassinet, and she was like, this was like maybe she might have been maybe 1 month. And I had her in the bassinet, and I was getting her ready to take her nap, and I leaned over, and wouldn't you know it, the exact image that God showed me was the exact moment that I leaned over and saw her. The exact image. By that time, she had a moon-shaped scar. She had the cocoa brown skin, the little curly jet black hair, the little slanty eyes, and those fat cheeks. And I just stood there and just froze, because I was like, oh my God. And then I just went straight into worship. Just went straight into worship. And to this day, she is now 20, Grace is 20, she'll be 25. And she has now had 1 surgery for every year she has been on the planet. And so we have been through 26 surgeries. 26 surgeries. And I promise you, after 12, you just kind of, it's all a blur. And the thing I had to learn, again, depend on me only. Because y'all have to understand, 26 times I had to lay my daughter on a stretcher and let 2 strangers take her away through the double doors to cut her open, do whatever they had to do to get her right. And I didn't have any choice. I had to trust God in that circumstance. So that's why I say when it does not matter what situation you are in, where you are, what it looks like to you. All you have to do is just cry out to God, and He will hear you. He will come. And sometimes He will blow your mind in His coming, because He's that kind of God. And if there's something He needs to teach you, He's going to make an entrance. He will make an entrance. And it reminds me so much of David when I read David in the Bible, and he talks about how he cried out to God and how God heard his cry, and how when God heard his cry on his descent, He bowed the sky. And when He landed, the ocean floors were laid bare. Man, when I tell you, David knows how to write it, because that's exactly how you feel when the Lord comes through like that. So anyway, I just wanted to share that. I hope somebody got something out of that. I know somebody needed to hear it. So whatever situation you're in, I don't care what it is, He is able to reach you right where you are. You don't have to worry about whether or not you can get to Him. He's already there. And I just wanted to remind you all that, and remind myself. Sometimes we have to testify to ourselves to what He's already brought us out of. You know, sometimes we forget how quickly we forget. So I just wanted to share that with you guys. And another thing, after delivery, because you know I done studied on this whole situation. After delivery, immediately when she came out, there was no shock on my face. There was no shock on our face. And all the nurses and the doctors were just like a little traumatized. And they were running around and they were looking at us like we were crazy, because I had no stress on my face. You had to understand, I had already put my time in and studied. And when I saw her face, y'all, I knew that she was not as severe as she could have been. In fact, she was literally on the less severe end. So I knew we weren't going to have to go through as much to get her right. So I'm sitting there just excited, and I'm actually ecstatic, and they're looking at me like I'm crazy. And I'm like, thank you, Jesus. Can I have a sandwich? And they, you know, went into their routine or what have you, and could not understand why I was so at peace. But God did that. God did that. He prepared me for that 5 months in advance. So I just wanted to share that and share my testimony and let somebody out there know, don't give up. Don't give in. He's got you. He's got you. He's got you. So dear Heavenly Father, please bless whoever you unction me to shoot this video for. I don't know who it is, what situation they're in, but I ask you, Lord, to touch them, let them receive this message and know beyond a shadow of a doubt that you're not going to do for them what you did for me. You're going to do it for them the way you need to do it for them. You know how to reach them. You know what they need. You know what situation they're in right now. I just know, and I'm here to testify, that he will pierce time to get to you. He will bow the sky to get to you, because that's the kind of father he is. So whatever your situation is, just cry out and know that you know that you know that he can hear you. And I pray these things in your son Yahshua's name, and it is so. So I hope you enjoyed that and were blessed by that. If so, let me know in the comments. And I will talk to you guys later. Take care.